Imagine this. You're sitting in a therapist's office, sunlight slicing through the blinds like prison bars. The air smells of lavender and unresolved grief. Across from you, the therapist leans forward, their voice a velvet hammer. Have you tried forgiving him? Him. The father who carved his rage into your childhood. The partner who left you gasping in the wreckage of trust. The friend who wore your secrets as a carnival mask. Your stomach tightens. You've replayed the script 1,000 times. Forgiveness is healing. Forgiveness is strength. Forgiveness is the only way to move on. But here, now, the word feels like a noose. What if the problem isn't your inability to forgive, but the cult of forgiveness itself? Society worships at the altar of absolution. Self-help gurus chant mantras of release, spiritual teachers promise enlightenment through pardons, and Instagram memes command you to forgive to free yourself. But what if this relentless push to forgive is not a virtue, but a surrender? A surrender to a narrative that prioritizes comfort over truth, that demands you staple shut your wounds before they've stopped bleeding. Consider the paradox. We live in an age obsessed with accountability, cancel culture, corporate apologies, viral call-outs, yet when it comes to personal pain, we're handed a shovel and told to bury it. Let go, move on, rise above. But what if your anger, your bitterness, your refusal to forgive is not a flaw, but a compass? A primal scream from the deepest chambers of your psyche, pointing to truths you're too afraid to name. Think of the woman who forgives her abuser, only to find herself back in his grip months later. The man who pardons his cheating spouse, then drowns in self-loathing. The survivor who forces a smile at family dinners, her resentment fermenting into autoimmune disease. We call this healing. But what if it's a burial? Why do we treat forgiveness as a moral obligation rather than a choice? Who decided that your trauma must be sanitized into a parable of grace? The pressure to forgive feels holy, democratic, kind, until you realize it's a transaction. A societal bribe to keep the peace, to avoid the mess of accountability, to turn victims into martyrs so the world doesn't have to confront its own shadow. Picture the faces of those who've moved on. Their smiles are too bright, their laughter too loud. They've swallowed the poison and called it medicine. But in the quiet hours, the ghosts return. Because forgiveness, when coerced, becomes a gag order on your pain. It's the psychological equivalent of suturing a wound without disinfecting it. You look healed, but inside, infection thrives. What if the real violence isn't the hurt itself, but the demand to pretend it never happened? This is the unspoken crisis of our time. Forgiveness culture has weaponized compassion. It's less about your liberation and more about everyone else's convenience. The abuser gets absolution without change. The community avoids discomfort. The status quo stays pristine. Meanwhile, your unresolved rage migrates into your cells, your relationships, your dreams. You become a museum of suppressed truths. But here's the most dangerous question: what if you're not meant to forgive? What if your pain is a sacred text, a map to the parts of yourself that still demand justice? What if the path to freedom isn't through pardons, but through confrontation, not with the ones who hurt you, but with the lies you've been told about what it means to be whole? The therapist's clock ticks. You taste blood where you've bitten your tongue. Outside, the world hums with its endless noise. You want to scream, "Why is no one asking if I even want to forgive?" But you don't. Because deep down, you've already been taught the answer: good people forgive. Broken people hold grudges. But what if the opposite is true?